I like your background.
Good morning, Terry. You are our Saturday guest. It means last Saturday's guest, a little belated, but nevertheless, here we are. And we're very happy to have you with us again. You've been there before, and you are obviously now in the middle of something very interesting for our readers. And this is the America's Cup we're talking about.
Yes.
It's interesting, actually, that this year it's 40 years since Australia won the America's Cup, and you were probably young by then, so I don't know how much you remember, but it's
I remember it well.
You remember it well, yeah. And you decided then that you were going to take it back.
I don't know when I actually decided that. I've never really contemplated it in that manner. So I've always contemplated it as an event that I wanted to be part of a winning team and a successful team. And so, I think over the course of the last, really since 2000, so over the course of the last 23, and when we get to the match next year, 24 years, that's been the focus. And so it's never been with the lens of trying to take it back or what have you. It's always been with the lens of it's an incredibly difficult competition to win and wanting to be a part of a team that helps win that competition.
Yeah. And you've had a pretty good start by winning the first regatta for the AC 40s 2 weeks ago. That must have you a bit.
No, we did have a good start. We the guys, I think the guys sailed pretty well. I mean, it's important to recognize that's a one design regatta, and so they I think what was on display there was the fact that we had a lot of time in the boat. I think the fact that the guys had practiced well and we had prepared well for the regatta, it showed. And interestingly, the teams that had two boats and had spent the most time in the boat were the successful teams. So that's not really say again.
That's the way it always is, I think. It pays.
Yeah, that's the way it always is. And so I think in that vein, it's good to see that the tried and true way of preparing for a regatta, good time in the boat, great sailors, and well executed starts. It all came to a fruition, oddly enough.
Right. The one thing that is in common with the 1983 regatta is that it was an Australian helmsman who won at that time, and now you have an Australian helmsman with you, so that is maybe a good omen as well.
Yeah, we have a couple. He does have a U.S. passport, so
we all know where he comes from.
Yeah, and I think we have some great helmsmen. It's not on just one person.
No,
I think that would be a mistake to characterize that and to actually put that on Tom, because it is a team and there's 170 people on this team, and so at any given moment, the team's only going to be as strong as the weakest person on the team. And so it's our job to always make sure that we support our teammates and that we put the guys on the water. When they're on the water, we put them in a boat and in a position to go out and let them do their jobs. It's really no more complicated than that. But, Goody was doing as good a job as Tom, and Michael and Riley were doing as good a jobs as Tom and Paul. And so, I probably have a slightly different perspective on it. And none of that underestimates truly how talented both Tom and Paul are as helmsmen. We're very fortunate to have those guys as teammates.
No, and of course, there are, in fact, two helmsmen on the boat, one on each side. So
that's right.
They all have to be pretty good.
Yeah. Well, between the two of them, they have gold medals and 5 Moth World Championships. And obviously Tom's success on the Sail GP circuit is, I think the only word that truly describes it is impressive, because of his consistency and his team's ability to day in and day out always kind of being there answering the question, not only at the regattas but also on the season. So it's fun now to watch that racing with a personal connection to it, because in the past it that didn't really have a reason to have a close tie or a close connection to the event. And other than it's a great, you can't give Sail GP high enough marks for the work that they're doing, not only environmentally, but also in the broadcast and how they promote the sport of sailing. I think I think that production and that execution there is second to none. And so it's really, it's so cool to see our sport promoted in the manner that they're doing it.
The production from the recent America's Cup races, in my opinion, has not been very good, but it's already much better now, I think, in Barcelona, and it's available for everyone. And I think it was pretty good. Good commentary, interesting sailing.
Yeah, we rewatched the races here, and we would rewatch them, and yeah, I mean, I don't. We had it muted, so we were always trying to just focus on the looking at the boats and seeing what they were seeing. Obviously, Glenn's perspective is really welcomed. I mean, he, again, he's a sailor that has the experience in the boats, and so when he would speak about the boats, he was you'd always listen to what he had to say.
Yeah, well, there is no doubt that you have a top team, and so it's perhaps down to the boat, the real America's Cup boat, when that time's come. But I'll get to that later. The regatta in Barcelona 2 weeks ago was very interesting, and it was really the key to success was the ability to foil, and
Yeah.
the wind speed was pretty much down to a minimum for that, and even at that, not everybody succeeded. What do you think about the wind speeds? How critical should that be for an organizer?
Well, right now we're at 6.5 knots, measured at 5 meters off the surface there, and that is a low wind speed. When, in particular, when you add in the sea state, the 6.5 knots it measured, it's the same rule as it was in AC36, but in New Zealand, if it was that light, you knew that the sea state was going to be very flat. Here you're not guaranteed a flat sea state, and I think it's one of the unique design challenges that all the teams are going to face. And probably if we were to write a rule for this venue, it would be windier than that. And yet at the same time, it's probably one of the design challenges that all the teams have to face. Interestingly, last week we had 3 glamour days in a row where it was 14 to 20, just perfect foiling conditions, to be followed on by 3 days of conditions that you probably wouldn't sail because there wasn't enough wind. And so when you contemplate the average wind speeds over a month, or the average wind speeds, they all get skewed because 3 days are very, very light and 3 days are perfect sailing conditions. So it brings the average down. So it'll be interesting to see what all the teams develop and how we've all approached the same problem and the solutions that you get for it. I think that's truly what makes this one really, really difficult, because we have the intellectual property inside the team from AC36, and so you have the understanding there. But here you have a higher probability of failure with the Mother Nature cards, simply because you could have really beautiful sailing days and then no wind sailing days, and how you position the boat inside that is that's the question that we're all probably debating right now internally.
But you think it's fair that America's Cup should be decided by the ability to foil or not foil in marginal conditions?
My opinion of fair doesn't matter. I think the competition is defined. The defender and the challenger record defined it, and so fairness doesn't play a part. What's fair is that we go out and control our destiny and have a team that builds a boat that we believe is a regatta winning platform. But it's not going to be just the foils, it's not going to be just the hulls, it's not going to be just the sails or the sailors or the shore team. It's going to be a combination of that whole group, and we're all even on the day. And so I think when you look at it through that perspective, you can never put it on one side of the team, because it'll take all of us to win the regatta.
You are officially the skipper of the American Magic, but you're not going to be are you?
No.
So your capacity as a skipper is going to be an advisor and a coach, really.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. 4 people on the boat? also in the American?
4 people on the AC40s and eight sailors on the AC75. And what's changed in the since AC36, you know, the boat's 1,000 kilos lighter. It has the same amount of hydraulic requirement that the boat did in AC36, but you're doing it with 3 less people on board. And so the introduction of the legs to power the boat and the cyclers inside the boat, that's a big, you know, that's the requirement of the oil energy is still there. And so you have to, you got to produce it somehow to sail the boat as effectively and as efficiently as you can. And so I think that, you know, that's one of the changes that's going to be, again, it's going to be interesting to see how teams solve that problem, because, you know, producing oil and producing the right amount of energy to sail the boat properly the way that the guys want to sail it, that'll always be a revolving door of we need more oil. And so getting to a spot that the guys can do that is critical.
You have a huge design team, and design, as you say, is going to be very important in this America's Cup. Am I right to say that, or to understand that the rigs are going to be pretty similar, and it's up to the foils and the windage?
That's correct. So the rigs are the one design, you know, rigging and the one design spar, D-spar. So all that is very similar. The foil arms are 250 mil longer, and the span of the foil inside the box is a little bit bigger. And so there's a nod towards foiling in lighter conditions. But again, everybody will, you make the physical size of the foil a bit bigger, and such, you end up in a spot that you're still working to reduce the size of the foil and make the foil as small as possible.
Which again means that you are very vulnerable in.
That's right. But you're never going to make a slow foil fast. And yet, I think when you reflect back on AC36, what you do see is that, you know, Luna Rosa's foils were quite a bit bigger than Team New Zealand's. And in that match, you know, Luna Rosa sailed very well. And they took 3 races off of the defender, and they probably should have taken 2 more. And they had that one that they came off the foil and could not get the boat back up and got past. And then they had the other one that they were winning 3/4 of the way up the last beat, and, you know, did what they thought was the right thing to do at the time, and Mother Nature chose otherwise. But that was a race that, you know, that Luna Rosa deserved to win. And yet, you know, over the course of time, every day that they came off the water tied, it was a win for Team New Zealand, because Team New Zealand was just going to race better and better and better throughout the series. And it was, but it tells you that you can actually have quite a big foil, and if you sail the boat well, you can win races. But the defender, if they are truly the fastest boat, and you give them time to improve and to develop through the regatta, that the fastest boat's going to win. I mean, that was truly on display in 2013 when Oracle won in AC34 in San Francisco, you know, sitting on match point for as long as they did, but the fastest boat kept on getting faster and faster and faster and faster until it was just too much, regardless of how well or how poorly it started.
They were lucky though, because the American boat was half a leg from winning one race, and it was a time limit. So, you know. Yeah, no,
I mean, you can look at that. There was a lot of, you know, but that's Mother Nature, right? And so you have to make sure you're in a position that when the opportunity comes, you have the team and the equipment that can deliver on the week that you're going to be racing.
And after all, it is an outdoor sport, so you know, you have to contend with Mother Nature, as you say.
Yeah. That's what makes it exciting. That's what makes it hard. But it's truly the operation here in Barcelona is I think, as you pointed out earlier, you know, the city itself and the venue here is really, really good. You know, the Mother Nature part is obviously the challenging one, and the one that will always be questioned until we get to this time next year and we see what's delivered.
Will you sail on the same course as you did this time, on slightly south of Barcelona?
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, right now we're still waiting for the absolute rules for of engagement for not only the Challenger Series next year, but also for the match. And they've issued no race will start before 2 p.m. and some very basic information, but we haven't gotten down into the details of course length or course width and the boundaries and the sizes of that. And so we're still just, we're in a bit of a waiting game for that information.
Your founders have committed to 2 America's Cup races, haven't they? This or next year and the next cycle as well.
Yeah. No, we have. Well, we've developed a great partnership over the course of time with the New York Yacht Club, and so the agreement from a team perspective with the New York Yacht Club is for AC 37, and then again AC 38.
Right.
So which is great.
Yeah,
it allows the team build a solid foundation, and then continue on from there to improve upon it as well.
It seems there will be 6 very interesting teams on the starting line this time, because you have the French and the Swiss coming back, and they both seem to be doing pretty well.
Yeah, well, the French team has purchased Team New Zealand's design package. And so all the challengers will get a reasonably good look at what the Defender has. The Swiss, probably 65% of the Swiss design team was with American Magic last time. And so we know they're quite good. And personally, I have a lot of respect for Marcelino and for the work that he had always done for us on quantum racing. And so, that they're very, very good. And Ernesto's very experienced at the game. And so, they will absolutely have everything that they need, but they've also committed to 2 cycles, understanding that it's a difficult game to step into and win. I think the Italians, if I was to pick a challenger right now, that's probably looking the most polished, you'd have to say that Luna Rossa is doing a very good job in how they've executed their little LEQ boat. With not a lot of time in the AC40, they've sailed very well in the training regattas. They sailed very well, even though it wasn't ideal conditions. They sailed well in Villanova, and they have the experience, of AC36 as an afterguard group. So that'll carry some weight into this regatta. But they look very polished. And then the Challenger record. You can never underestimate Ben. I think that would be a monumental mistake, and the team that they've assembled there. And so they're backed by, the Mercedes Formula One team in a design world, and they've got great financial investment inside of that team, which helps feed the machine and helps feed the design side of it. So, you can't help but see a lot of great competitors. When you look around the harbor here in Barcelona, it's not if you put everybody on paper, it's hard to pick a favorite, and I would put the Defender in on that one as well, because they've taken on a lot, and the execution of the AC40s, the hydrogen support vessel, moving the venue out of their hometown. If you were truly focused on defending, probably that wouldn't be the first thing that you would do, but they made decisions that they did to keep their team going. And so, not knowing the intricacies of all that, from the outside, it's easy to pick it apart, but at the same time, you can see competitive advantages for the challengers based on the fact that we're now all living in an environment where we're not sleeping in our own beds, and therefore, it evens things out a bit.
It's a political issue as well, because the Middle East countries, the Emirates and so on, are trying to buy up all the interesting or high-end sports events these days. Now you're going to sail in Jeddah, I think it is, in a few weeks. And do you see that that will be a factor in the America's Cup as well?
Yeah, your first part of the question you broke up on. Sorry.
No, sorry. There is a political issue, and that is going to the Middle East and do a regatta there. And of course, we see that the countries around the Gulf are buying up the most important sports events these days, and
Yeah.
you fear that the America's Cup is going in that direction as well. Money talks.
Well, not if we win.
No, then it's going to be Newport.
I don't know. You know, I think I think we're pretty far away from that spot, and you know, I mean, there's a couple things, and you know, the ACE CEO Grant Dalton gave an interview last week where he talked about the reasonable side of us competing as a team in Jeddah. And you know, when you scale back and you look initially at the kingdom's entry into world sailing, I think the first thing that's important to acknowledge is that their statement was very in line, certainly to what our vision is for the sport. You know, they want to grow the sport in Saudi Arabia, and they want to perpetuate the sport of sailing, which, you know, I agree with. You know, we want to perpetuate the sport of sailing, not only inside the US, we want to make it available, but, you know, we want it to be something that that it is to you and I. You know, when I have a day off, I choose to go sailing because I enjoy being out on the water and the freedom and the just the peace that it provides. And so in that vein, it's very good. You know, the defender was quick to point out in their interview that, you know, we've been directed by the arbitration panel to come up with reasonable solutions to our request to not go to the regatta, primarily for the safety of our team. That is the number one and truly the only reason to debate this with the defender, and actually with the challenger record and with the regatta director, because they all play a part in this decision. And the protocol is very clear in what the position of the challenger record and the defender are. You know, that a team could be sanctioned with points through the Challenger Series in the America's Cup next year. And so, you know, we respect that. We signed up for that. But the interesting part of the protocol and the racing rules of sailing is the safety side. You know, when you go out and you go sailing, you're responsible for the safety of your team. You know, be it a Wednesday night race or a weekend regatta, that responsibility is on you. And it's the same thing here. It's written in the protocol that, you know, as the skipper of the team, I'm responsible for the safety of the team. And it's written in the racing rules of sailing that I'm responsible. So, yeah, I take that seriously, and I think everybody takes it seriously. And interestingly here, they want to apply the reasonable side of the protocol, and yet they want to determine what we believe our safety is. And that seems a little bit backwards to me. If you apply one side of it, but you don't contemplate, you know, if I say, hey, Nickel, you got to go out and go racing, and you say, no, Terry, I don't think it's safe, I'm not sure I should do that. It's like, well, if you don't, then I'm going to throw you out of the regatta. Well, that side of the argument doesn't really work for me. And so, you know, I think we are competitive people. I think we want to race, and I think we also want to make sure that the team's safe. And these are all very very meaningful things, I think, to everybody. But when the challenger record and the defender and the regatta director start telling us that they think it's safe, and they take the decision for us to determine whether or not we think it's safe out of our hands, you know, you have to be careful with that position, because I know for certain, if something happened, God forbid, then, you know, I know who's responsible for it. And so, you know, it's an interesting position for the others to take when they take the responsibility of safety out of the competitors' hands and put it on themselves.
Well, of course, that is true. And of course, it is a huge difference between the safety in a Saturday night regatta than it is the political risk of going to the Middle East. So
yeah, well, I'm careful to remove the politics out of it, because I do, you know, we've had some great meetings with the sports ministry and everybody's very well intended, and so you can't, we've looked everybody in the eye, and you have to be, I think both are very genuine positions. I mean, they certainly want to have a great regatta, and they want to display what Jedda and what the waters off of the coast there can provide to the sport of sailing. And I think when they entered into the world sailing and what was written and said, those are very genuine statements. But I guess I don't draw the difference between the Wednesday night race where you're responsible for the safety and here, I mean, we're all still going racing, regardless of the scale that we're doing it on. One just brings more attention to the other. And so, it's a, you just want to be thoughtful in these decisions and how you balance the safety of the team and who's actually responsible. So
in any event, the regatta in Jeddah is the last one for the AC 40 class, and then you're going on to the real America's Cup holds.
Which is unfortunate because the racing's really good. I think what everybody saw there was great racing.
But now the design is available for anybody to buy, so maybe it's going to be a class for other than the America's Cup content.
Yeah, I guess time will tell on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. But talking about time, when is your first America's Cup boat ready for sailing?
What is ready for sailing? I think we get into June of next year. And you're going to see the boat out on the water ripping around here in Barcelona. Right. So we're trying to program ourselves that we have enough time. The program that we had leading up to the racing in AC 36 was a good amount of time in the boat, enough time to allow the designers to design, but also enough time to allow the sailors the appropriate amount of time to work at the boat.
Are you going to try it out in Pensacola in home waters before?
Yeah, we're in Barcelona for the duration, which is good. So no more moves. Although we miss, you miss Pensacola and you miss being down there in the port. And, we're working on right now, developing a long-term plan. And have had great support from the city. We've had great support from the state of Florida. And so, I think, as a team, we're in a really good spot, post AC 37 here, where we can go back and move into a facility that's been purposely built for us and continue on this America's Cup journey and legacy.
One last question to you, Terry, is do you miss sailing yourself, since you're not actually on board on the AC 40s or
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was fortunate enough to be with Hap and the Bellamente team when we won the Maxi Worlds a month ago. And so there's still some racing going on, which is good. And, but this job and the role that I'm here to support the sailing team. I'm here to support the entire team. And that's relying on the experience that has been gained over the last 5 cycles of doing this competition. And so, the goal is to win the regatta, and that's full stop. And so if I have to be the person emptying the trash cans and that's what it takes to help us win, then that's what I'm going to do, because there's so much commitment here and there's so much energy being put into having this team be successful, that we all have to be willing to do whatever it takes. And so I don't view I'm a competitive racer still, and so yes, I miss racing, but I find the opportunity to watch and to help and to facilitate the guys learning, and to be sometimes a contrarian in the room, asking the questions that maybe people don't necessarily want to ask at the time, but asking that question, it's equally as engaging, because you can see the impact that can come from it. So in that vein, it's different, but it's also good.
Terry, it's always nice to talk to you. I hope we will have a chance to talk again before
Thank you for your patience. I appreciate it.
next year, and good luck.
Yes, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.